Hello, and thank you for joining me as we review and discuss my book, Exploring Mental Health Through Therapeutic Art. My name is Hannah Ranko. I'm a dancer, currently earning my BFA in Dance Studies with a concentration in choreography at Dean College. This year, I earned my BHP, which stands for Behavioral Health Professional. With that, I work with young adults and children with autism. I also have been a part of numerous mental health advocacy groups both before and during college. More than that though, I'm passionate about this subject because I've experienced it firsthand. Growing up in an abusive household with my father who was an addict and alcoholic, I experienced trauma, and from that trauma I developed depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Dance was what saved me emotionally during those times. It was consistent and secure and something that I lacked in my home. In an alcoholic home, people don't get to talk about what they're going through. A lot of it is just kept quiet. So I was seeing all this stuff happen and I was feeling these feelings and I was having these emotions, but no one was there to guide me through that. Dance was the place I was able to find my way through those emotions and find a sense of normalcy. Dance was the vessel and the language I used to communicate my trauma. Without it, I would still be replaying the trauma in my head over and over again. This is why I wrote the book, and this is why I'm so passionate about dance as a therapeutic art. Because I know firsthand the power art has and the power it can have over so many other people. The book begins with a look at exactly what mental health is and how it's perceived in society. The chapters also discuss basic information about the brain and how it works in order to better understand mental health. From there, the book breaks up into specific types of mental health. Each chapter breaks down into further sections with disorders that pertain to that specific mental health category. Throughout the book, I use real-life stories and work that exemplify just what I'm talking about when I'm referring to each disorder and the power of therapeutic art. In this presentation, I want to share with you some of the main discoveries I've found while writing this book. My first discovery was that everyone has mental health and everyone can benefit from therapeutic art. I discussed this discovery a lot in the first chapter, but it's suggested throughout the book. Just like we all exercise and try to eat healthy in order to improve our physical health, we can do things in order to improve our mental health too. But because of the stigma placed on mental health, this is also often disregarded. It is vital that we look at mental health as something we can all improve on. We can all work on how we think, act, and feel. That is the basis of mental health, and that is where every coping mechanism and therapeutic practice can stem from. One of the stories in the book was that of Forney. She is a Seattle-based cartoonist who struggles with bipolar disorder. Through her story, I discovered that art can be used as another way to communicate struggles. While I gravitated toward dance, Ellen found comfort in drawing. Everyone can benefit from therapeutic art. Everyone can benefit from their specific medium that they want to practice, or multiple medias. Drawing became a comfort that allowed Ellen to take the invisible demons in her head and make them visible on paper. It was no longer stuck inside her mind. She could let it out without knowing exactly what it was. My second discovery was that the stigma of mental health can be prevented through artistic expression. Mental health in general, but also certain mental health disorders like schizophrenia, are extremely stigmatized in our society. But through art, we can better understand these illnesses and what they are actually like. Another story I used in my book was that of Charney. He is a painter whose work dealt with his very real experience with schizophrenia. In this particular series that I used in the book, each painting was accompanied by a journal entry describing the experience with the illness. The last few paintings did not have journal entries, as he committed suicide before finishing the series. I feel like the target for people's cruel remarks. What is going on? I had sweet-talked a girl to suicide because I had no tongue, no real tongue, and could only flatter. While it may not be the exact experience of Charney, we can all feel his work within our own experience. This is the power of art. This is how mental health can be advocated for, and this is how we can destigmatize mental health illnesses. My third discovery is that everything is connected. I discussed this discovery most in the last chapter of my book, Today's World. When in recovery from my own trauma and illnesses like PTSD and depression, I discovered that it was impossible to pinpoint one event or one thing that caused my illnesses. Just as this is true within my inner world, it is true in the outer world as well. Mental health issues plague our society. We have the pandemic going on, racism, polarization of political parties, social media, the effects of social distancing and isolation. How is mental health affecting these issues? The pandemic, social issues, and racism, this all affects people's mental health. Everything affects everything, and it's one circle that feels so overwhelming. But like my own personal recovery journey, I believe it is not helpful to try and find one main cause. That is pointless and exhausting and unnecessary. Because each day, if we try to fix what we can, slowly molding ourselves and the people around us into the society we want to see, it will become just that. My fourth and final discovery upon writing this book is that art builds communities that help us get through tough times. I buried my head under the darkness of the pillow and pretended it was night. I couldn't see the point of getting up. I had nothing to look forward to. Sylvia Plath, The Bell Jar. So when they ask you what you weigh, you don't need to look down at any scale. Instead, simply tell them the truth. Tell them how you weigh whole universes and storms and scars and stories too. Nikita Gill, What I Weigh. My feet are so heavy, so is my head. I wish I was a baby. I wish I was dead. John Lennon, Cold Turkey. These are some of the many quotes, songs, and stories from well-known artists about their mental health that I've included in the book. People resonate with this work deeply through their own experiences, and we all might not gravitate towards the same thing, but that's what's beautiful about art. That's what makes it subjective and interesting. Communities are built around dance, music, and art. These communities help us not feel so alone. Without art, there would be no culture. Without art, there is no point to society. We need art. Thank you so much for joining me as I discussed and reviewed my book, Exploring Mental Health Through Therapeutic Art.